I quickly became homophobic.
I like smelly feet.
Uncle Ted's!
Okay. Wet hands. Shake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Dry.
They don't see people paying with cash or checks. In fact, if ever you're in a line and someone in front of you pulls out their checkbook to pay, you are liable to say to yourself, really, a checkbook? This is going to take forever. You're laughing because it's true. Poo-pooing.
Come on! Yes! Yes! Ah! Rock and roll! Come on, Sydney, let's make some noise! Yeah! Awesome, yeah! All right, yes, now make some noise if you love TEDx! Yes! Video games. Fart. 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 Fart.
30 years ago, I was lonely, a black woman in the specialty chemicals industry working for a Fortune 100 company.
I spent 20 years rising in corporate America, and I got my seat at the table. I had a successful career, and I was on an upward trajectory when I decided to walk away from it all. Why? I was stressed. The system was not created for women of color, and I got my seat at the table.
Our data shows that 1 in 3 women are considering leaving the workforce in the next year.
1 in 3.
And about 6 months ago, we launched a data-driven research project to hear from over 1,700 women from all backgrounds about their work experiences. Women of color.
The women of color, women of color. But women of color, for women of color, that women of color, percent of the women of color, we also heard from women of color, work better for women of color.
Women of color are
the women of color.
One woman of color, women of color.
Women of color, that women of color. Women of color.
Because we've had to navigate a world that never had our success in mind.
And I got my seat at the table.
Working for a Fortune 100 company.
We want more.
Shut the hell up! Damn!
Hi, I've got a question for you. How many people here would say they can draw? But would you be happy if, by the end of this session, you could draw pictures a little bit like this?
Many of you might recall the powerful images of Tahrir Square that circulated in the news and across social media in 2011, when 17 million people took the streets in Egypt to overthrow their ruthless dictator. Now, I want to ask you to think about the women who were there. One study confirmed that 40 to 50% of those protesters were women.
Straight marriage is not actually natural because you don't see animals getting married. In New York Central Park Zoo, there are 2 penguins called Roy and Silo, 2 males who formed a romantic pair. And a zookeeper saw them trying to hatch a stone. He also had an egg left over from a heterosexual couple who were not nesting it. So he gave that egg to Roy and Silo. And they took turns nesting it, and they did a great job. And it hatched into a healthy female chick called Tango. And as it turns out, Tango grew up and also happened to be gay. Their story was written up into a children's book called Tango Makes 3. And it's used to teach children that love is what actually makes a family. Another assumption that people often have is that male animals have a penis and female animals don't. And that's not even true in humans. Before we go any further, we have to understand the difference between gender and sex. So to do this, I'm going to use this illustration. So I'd like to summarize what we've just learned in the form of a rap. Now remember, we're not talking about gender, just sex. Gender is a spectrum. It's more complex.
what if this love that you really wish for will forever be impossible? That must be a really lonely situation to be in. It's like telling me, we know that you love your boyfriend and we don't minimize that love. However, you cannot act out on it ever. Yes, from an emotional point of view, I can kind of understand that you would want to eliminate these people from society. And that's because we're talking about biology. We're talking about a sexual orientation, something that we simply cannot change. And on top of that, every day, new people are born with the same difficulty. So it's not practical to eliminate these people from society. They haven't done anything wrong. But the problem is, these people can't talk about their feelings because they know that they will be hated for it. I truly do believe that every person is longing for love at some point in their life. And I can kind of understand that you would want to eliminate these type of people from society. But the problem is, this distorts our view of the factual situation. Because in fact, sex offenders aren't all those violent, gruesome men waiting in the bushes for children they can attack. What we think about when we hear about sex offenders is what we see portrayed in the media. And the media usually reports about the most extreme cases, the real violent offenders, those people that are portrayed as monsters and less than human. In my career, I've seen sex offenders with a lot of life potential. Social, charismatic men. Men with no psychological disorders whatsoever. Thank you very much.
But you know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say is that, come on now.